There's some really great relationships in this series, and I'm not just talking about romantic, even though Lord only knows a lot of people will interpret them that way anyway. This is also where we start kind of moving away from the anime and manga comparisons and moving more into a general Sailor Moon meta. The most obvious dynamic is Minako and Rei, who work so in sync in battle it's like almost scary. Minako is the leader, and since she's been fighting for longer than anybody else, she tends to calculate and react faster than anybody else can, and she also tends to react in ways that the enemy doesn't see coming. She also knows that she has Rei to back her up all the time because when it comes to Rei, she is the first one in line to defend Usagi. So like there's this one scene in the Supers movie.
Stop! That's far enough. Okay, kid, tell us who you are!
So before this, they were all the way over here, and when Peru tries to escape, he tries going out the back. So since they made it all the way over here, it's pretty obvious to think that Minako and Rei have already given up on rescuing Chibiusa at this point, and they're going to go interrogate the first person they can think of, this weird kid who's just kind of hanging around and is connected to the enemy. And this isn't something that you know, can practice, you just start doing. This is something that you do when you have a partner that you've worked with for a long time and you're in tandem and you can connect with each other in a way that you don't even have to speak, you just look at each other, nod, and go do it. This is also how Minako can annoy Rei so much. She knows all the little buttons to push, she knows where to get on her nerves, she knows what exactly to say to go from normal Rei to pissed off Rei. In less than 5 seconds, your money's free. And she is totally okay with that because Rei really can't figure out how to get Minako back because Minako just doesn't care. Like, Rei could actually say, oh yeah, well you're ugly, and Minako would just toss her hair and be like, oh yeah, sorry you think that way. Me and my gorgeous ass are gonna go shopping. Ta! And if we are going to go in the order of obvious relationships, the next one is going to be Amy and Makoto. Since Makoto is the protective type and Amy is the senshi with the least amount of offensive moves and as well as being the logistics expert, she tends to be drawn to the person who can, you know, cover her the most. Makoto will probably say to Amy, you stay over here and you figure out what we gotta do and I got this. I'll cover your back. Amy is also the kind of person who might get super invested in her studies or whatever she's doing and she might forget to eat. Not that Amy really forgets anything, but you can imagine that once or twice she's gotten so absorbed into something that she just has not realized that literally 12 hours have passed since her last meal. And Makoto, being the person who loves to cook the most in the group, she would be more than happy to just show up and be like, I brought you a study snack. Amy also tends to keep Makoto on track, since Makoto is the kind of person who really just wants to have beautiful things, and she spends literally one entire short story spending most of her time cleaning her house and organizing everything and cooking her friends these elaborate dinners, and meanwhile Amy is going, you know that you're not gonna pass the high school entrance exams if you're up until 1 o'clock in the morning cleaning your apartment, right? You need to do this as well, or else you're not gonna have any pretty things because you will have flunked out of school. Rei and Amy also have a very interesting bond, as they were the first two senshi that Usagi was able to awaken, and they had to, you know, deal with Usagi at the beginning of the story, and they also defeated Jadeite together, so they kind of just have this, hey, we defeated the first boss together, yay us, high fives. Rei also tends to be an ocean of stability when things are kind of going crazy. So if you look carefully in like some big final battles, you will see Amy kind of lingering around either Rei or Makoto because she knows, okay, these two know what's going on, and if shit goes down, one of you guys are able to, you know, handle it, right? Amy and Minako actually get the least amount of screen time together, and I think it's just because they're such wildly different people that they don't just think, oh, we should just go out and do things together, just the two of us. They need kind of a third person buffer between Minako, who is out there and all over the place, and Amy, who tends to be a little more shy and quiet. The only scene of them together that really comes to mind is when Minako is going on about being a really, you know, low-ranking number in the Three Lights Club, and then Amy goes, oh, I'm number 25 in the Three Lights fan club, and Minako's like, I'm 278. How did you get such, how were you in before me? I'm Minako. So she's like simultaneously really jealous of the fact that Amy got in way before she did, and she's also kind of impressed. So Makoto and Rei have a pretty difficult relationship. That one's largely based on personality differences as well. Rei can at times be kind of a bully towards Usagi, and Makoto, being Makoto, it just really doesn't stand for that. They do have respect for one another, however, as the two most powerful fighters in their team, and Makoto tends to utilize similar meditation techniques when she is training for her strength, as Rei does when she's training for her spirituality. I have absolutely no problem seeing them having a meditation time in the afternoon and then afterwards being followed up by traditional tea and some snacks that Makoto made. I also think that Minako and Makoto could be considered the other two closest out of the group. Back in the second season, the first time that Minako ever hung out with somebody who was not Usagi or the entire group, it was Makoto. And Makoto would make sure that Minako was feeling welcome since she didn't go to the same school as them. She was still kind of like feeling the isolation of being the sole fighter for a while and then suddenly coming into a group. It's a little awkward for Minako. Minako also tends to rely on Makoto's strength in battle, as Minako knows that Makoto will pretty much do anything as long as it lines up with her black and white morality. And now, okay, so the interpersonal relationships between the Outer Senshi tends to be pretty straightforward in both settings. They're kind of just this mold of collective otherworldly coolness, and in the anime it tends to just be Haruka and Mitsuru, and then Setsuno appears sometime, and then like Hotaru really doesn't get much screen time at all like in the Outer Senshi group, so we're gonna ignore all that and we're gonna focus on what I really think suffered in the translation between the manga and the anime, and that is the interpersonal relationship between the group of the Outer Senshi and the group of the Inner Senshi. It was a beautiful thing and they ruined it. So it's not like there's not a good reason that the anime has a pretty big divide between the two groups, mostly because the focus that they have. The Inner Senshi tend to be more, we're gonna save everybody and, you know, we're gonna minimize impact altogether, and, you know, everything is rainbows and sunshine, whereas the Outer Senshi, they're very straightforward in their mission. If somebody has to die to get things done, sorry, that's just how it's gonna happen. Their skew on what's right and wrong are very different, and that's kind of the major divide of things. Also the whole Uranus fighting Jupiter bit, and then we also talked about how Makoto hates bullies already, and Uranus puts up a tough front, and there's a lot of separation reasons. It's not that they hate each other, there's a lot of tension involved. But the Outers in the anime are friends with Usagi mostly because Usagi is Usagi and she insists on friendship with everybody. And Haruka and Mitsuru did try to dissuade her, but Usagi was basically like, no, we are a team, we are on the same side, we don't always see eye to eye, but, you know, you're part of our family and we will be friends whether you like it or not. And it's kind of heartbreaking that they're separated like that. They had nothing to do with the Supers arc, even though there was a random cameo in the movie that made no sense, and I'm not even sure if the movie like fits in with the canon somewhere or not, or if it's just more dream whatever. It fits really weird. And even in the Stars arc, they're just like, they're here occasionally and then they just kind of go away again, and like they're just assuming that because Usagi is the Messiah that she's going to take care of everything, when clearly that's not what happens. I mean, for God's sake, spoiler alert, the only reason that Usagi was able to power up to her eternal form is because she combined all of the powers of her Senshi. So maybe to like defeat the big bad before all the bad crap happens, she maybe needed the power of all of her Senshi together.